of Cyprus. Her father was a Greek refugee from Asia Minor in 1922, and her mother a Greek Cypriot. Mrs. Argyrou spent over 25 years researching files at the Public Records Office in London and published part of it in a daily newspaper in Cyprus, Simerini, in the autumn of 1989, and has continued to do this to this date. Products of her research are the 8 books that she published, 7 related to the issue of Cyprus, and 1 related to the Pontian Genocide. Author and researcher, Mrs. Fanoulla Argyrou.
Reverend Father, representatives of our mother countries, dear all, I am indebted to the Pontian Federation of the United States of America and Canada and the co-organizers of this event for their kind invitation to be here today and participate in the 91st memorial anniversary of this Greek genocide. And in doing so, I pay tribute to the man who initiated this historical duty back in the 1980s, the Greek politician Michael Michalis Haralambidis. At the time of his articles began appearing in the Greek press, sometimes in the 1980s, they appeared as an oasis to all of us who do not forget the Turkish atrocities, uprooting, massacres, and barbaric extermination tactics so violently executed against all Greeks in the whole of the Ottoman Empire, and upon all Christians to that matter, Armenians and Assyrians by the Neo-Turks of Kemal Atatürk and their mercenaries. My father and his family being one of the victims from the shores of Asia Minor. 91 years on, and Turkey is still escaping punishment for those unprecedented crimes of the past century. Refuses to acknowledge those crimes, refuses to apologize, the least expected of her, compromise with history and come to terms with it. Modern Kemalist Turkey has been created over the dead bodies of hundreds of thousands of Christian Armenians, Greeks and Assyrians who were ethnically cleansed to pave the way for the new state of Turkey. It is an established fact that modern Turkey evolved out of the ashes of one of the most horrific genocides recorded at the beginning of the 20th century. According to the British archives, Ziya Bey, who was the founder of the Young Turk Society, came from Diyarbakir. Gradually, the doctrinaires proposed to strengthen the Turkish nationality Anatolia by so-called education and reform. The method of the Young Turks had been to exterminate the non-Turkish nationalities, first the Armenians and secondly the Greeks, and to give them their land and houses. Initially to Muslims brought from provinces lost in the 1912 and 1913, partly Turks from the Balkan Peninsula and other parts. Great responsibility for Turkey's refusal, therefore, lies on the shoulders of the so-called civilized society and protectors of human rights worldwide, who shelved the truth for decades. Because had Turkey been convicted long ago, if not by the failed and doomed League of Nations, by their replacement body in 1948, the United Nations, of which the United States of America became a powerful member, and other international bodies for all the injustices and crimes she committed, she would not have been at ease to carry on with her same crimes and massacre half of Cyprus in 1974. Greece and Cyprus have since long adopted the 19th of May as the official annual commemoration day of the Pontian Genocide. On March 4th, the United States House Foreign Affairs Committee recognized the Armenian Genocide. A week later, the Parliament of Sweden recognized the Armenian, Assyrian, and Greek genocides by the Ottoman Turks. All in all, more than 2,000 states, including France and Russia, have recognized the Armenian genocide today, which helps the promotion for recognition of the Greek and Assyrian genocides as well, as they were all executed almost at the same time by the same executioners for the same reason. And just weeks after the Swedish Parliament's recognition of those horrific Turkish crimes against the Assyrians, Armenians and Greeks in World War I, the struggle for recognition has reached the European Union, the European Parliament. Hundreds of listeners gathered in the European Parliament to listen to a panel of specialists. One of the aims was for the European Union to follow in Sweden's footsteps and recognize the genocide against Christians in the Ottoman Empire during World War I. Lastly, we hear that the Israeli Parliament is also discussing the very subject with view to recognition. Germany has apologized to the Jewish nation. Russia opened her secret files for the 1940 massacre of Polish officers by order of Stalin at Katyn Forest. Yet, Turkey not only does not accept the worldwide evidence as confirmed by the World Authority, the International Association of Genocide Scholars, who passed a resolution in 2007 affirming that the Ottoman campaign against Christian minorities of the empire, including the Greeks, was genocide, but Turkey refuses to revoke its notorious Article 301, which punishes anyone within Turkey who dares speak out of those or any other Turkish crimes. And even more, Turkey provocatively and shamelessly attempts by fear and intimidation to impose the provisions of that article to the rest of the world. A country which is so forcefully demanding to become a member of the European Union. And lately we hear that Turkish Prime Minister has or will demand from the Greek government the withdrawal of any references to the Greek genocide in the textbooks, the Greek textbooks. Dear all, we have an obligation to remember. We have a duty to carry on the fight for justice, for recognition of the genocides by the Turks. We owe it to those who suffered and do not have a voice of their own to carry on the fight. Finally, and in the light of the raising of the Greek flag and Pontiac flags and the American flag, in memory of all those Pontiac Greeks, 353,000 of them or so, who perished in the hands of the Ottoman Turks, I would like to remind you of another Pontiac Greek hero, Konstantinos Koukides, in order to demonstrate to you the importance of the national flag. On 27 April 1941, Koukides was on duty as the guard of the Greek flag at Acropolis, and he decided to fall to his death from the Holy Rock Hieros Brakos with the flag, rather than surrender himself and the flag to the invading German army. In memory of them all, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Argyrou.